Pokemon Emerald, the game I probably like the most of the entire series. That's why I decided to do a Nuzlocke of it. But since a regular Nuzlocke is too anticlimactic at this point, I came up with an idea to, well, to steal the concept of the Platinum Run Pokemon challenges did a while back.
I'm probably
best Nuzlocke in the world.
So I have the level caps to get a little bit more into the rules, and I did all odd numbers up, and for the 84 I decided to go with Champions level, half of the Champions level, instead of the last 84 member as usual. Besides the usual Nuzlocke rule set, if a Pokemon faints, it's dead, etc, etc, I also played on set mode with all items allowed, possible EV training, and I played with Dupe's Claws, which means I cannot pick two Pokemon out of the same evolution line during the same attempt. So now that the basic rules are explained, we can take a look on how it went. Once I arrived in Littleroot, I had to spend about 10 minutes of introduction to finally be able to choose my starter. I decided to go with Trico because, let's face it, he is superior to the other Hoenn starters. Then I smacked the aggressive Slizagoon, my neighbor's chicken, and got a few encounters, which I was pretty happy about, especially the huge power Meryl and Shroomish for stall strats. After my Wurmple evolved into Cascoon, the more useful version for this challenge, I got a Poochyena on Route 115 and headed for the gym. Roxanne was still quite easy since the level deficit is not as big. Shroomish just breezed through her Geodudes, getting to the next level cap in the process. I wanted to switch him out once the Nose Pass entered, but he immediately went for block. So I leech seeded and braced for myself for a stalling session. After about 5 minutes, Shroomish took him out, overleveling to Watson's level cap, but winning us the first gym badge. Then, I picked up a guaranteed Whismur in Rustler's Tunnel, headed for Dewford where I fished up Magikarp and caught an Aron, whose significance will be unbelievable. I got Cascoon to the level cap and he evolved. Then, I safely made my way through Brawly's gym. I knew that after some decent growl setup by Wingull, my Dustox can just sweep. But then I very stupidly decided to sacrifice the only Combusken counter I had for one extra growl. Seriously, I have no idea what I was thinking. But afterwards, Dustox had a clean sweep through all Brawly's brawlers, winning me the second badge and immediately getting to the next level cap. Then I caught an Oddish on Route 110 and ran into the first actually difficult battle of the run. May opens with Wingull. I go for Leech Seed as it misses Supersonic. Then I use Stun Spore as the incoming wing attack deals a huge amount of damage and triggers Shroomishes Effect Spore, deeming my turn worthless. After, I just switch between Shroomish and Aron until the bird falls, but then the big threat comes out. I decide to sacrifice Whismur for a clean switch into Dustox. But even then, Ember does more damage than I imagined. I switch into Meryl as Combusken goes for Peck instead. My Vortigun does barely anything, so I go for Tail Whip as May switches into Lombre. Luckily, Dustox's Poison Sting poisons the Polylipad, so I just heal Stola hoping for no crits. When Lombre is almost down, I sacrifice another member, Poochyena, to keep as much HP on Dustox as possible. Combusken makes his second grand entry by almost one-shotting my Dustox. But then, my confusion actually, well, confuses. Meryl takes a hard Ember, but fires a critical hit Vortigun for the kill, and that's the toughest battle of the early game behind us. Then I get an Illumise next to Mobile City, and here's another rule that I implemented for this run to be beatable. If at some point my encounters go over the level cap, I'm allowed to lower their level in PK Hex exactly to the one at the next level cap. In the Mobile Gym, there is only one mandatory trainer, and he doesn't even have electric types, so that's just a sweep. Next up, Watson. After correctly switching on the Self-Destruct, the fight becomes significantly easier. Watson just sends out the other useless Pokemon of his, still almost killing my Illumise in the process, but she just charms in return. He doesn't stand a chance against my Paralysis Leech Seed strat anyway, so I just keep healing before he goes down. Magneton's a threat because he uses Sonic Boom, but thankfully I managed to paralyze and seed him again, and after about 2 or 3 minutes of out-healing his moves and switching, he goes down. Now it's only the Ace Manectric remaining. And this will be very hard to execute correctly, so bear with me. I need to bring out a new unconventional strategy. The simplified core of it is to click Stun Spore, and you'd never guess the other part, Leech Seed. Then you can just watch as Manectric struggles and succumbs to the effects, and that's Watson. Now we can go north from Mauville, getting Numel on Route 112, the Magma-like Pokemon with a funny name on Fairy Path, and getting my entire team a free status condition while finding a random trainer. I also get a Spinda and a Nuzleaf I picked up on Route 114, who will get its attention later. Then I had a run-in with Team Magma on Mount Chimney, whose only notable trainer is their leader Maxi. He opens with my Diana, so I lead with the now sacrificeable Illumise. And just like a Minecraft YouTuber, Illumise flashes long before charming. Then I just repeatedly heal with Moonlight until the my Diana is -6 on both of its attack and its accuracy. And Aaron takes the kill, baiting Camerupt out next. I hard switch back into Illumise to get as much value out of it before finally sacrificing it to the Raging Camel. After that, Emerald almost wipes my entire team, burning some of its members in the process, before the combination of Water Gun and Poison finally takes it out. Maxi's last Pokemon is for some reason still a Zubat, so Dustox and his confusion just deals with him easily. After the battle, my Trico finally evolves into Grovyle, so it's slightly less useless than before, and I get my own Zubat from Meteor Falls, plus a Machop from Jagged Pass. I lost my Numel to one of the trainers, so I was completely prepared to wipe the Flannery. But then, I realized my Meryl just learned Rollout, and who would I be if I didn't risk it? See, Flannery starts with a Numel, so that's a freebie for me to set up on. And when I started struggling, I went for the first Rollout. After taking down Numel, Rollout also one-shotted Slugma. Then Camerupt missed an overheat and got rolled out as well, and after a body slam from Torkoal that wasn't quite enough, even she got crushed by the almighty blue ball. With a lot of luck on my side, Meryl had a clean sweep through Flannery, which also took her from level 15 to 19, evolving her, but deeming her useless until Titaniza. Then I got a few encounters that I missed, and I came across this. Now my rules allow me to use a shiny Pokemon, but only if I already have that Pokemon as one of my encounters. Then I'm allowed to switch the regular one for the shiny one. In other words, it's not an additional encounter. But as I already had an Oddish and its stats were terrible, I immediately made a decision. I finally arrived back in Petalburg and decided to utilize the Gust strategy on Machop. I swept the gym trainers with relative ease. They do have only one Pokemon each after all. Then I entered the battle against Norman. I wanted to start cheesing again with Shroomish, but Spin Down and Steeler Dance had different plans. But I eventually hit it and started stalling. I'm pretty sure that pissed Norman off since he immediately went into the big guns, his fearsome Slacking, who isn't that scary since the only move he can hit Aaron with is Counter. After seeding and paralyzing him, I get greedy and go into Spinda for the special move, and he gets one-shotted by Slacking's Facade. So then I go into Machop, only to realize that its attack just sucks, even with Guts Boost. So I heal Aaron as Slacking falls. Vigoroth is next, and Aaron with potions just walls him. And Norman's last Pokemon comes out. But Linoone is literally just faster and weaker Vigoroth, so Aaron takes care of him as well. And that's 5 badges. After getting Surf, we can get a few more encounters. Magnemite from Umawville, Zigzagoon I didn't get a dupe for earlier, and then we just breeze through the Weather Institute and steal their cast form. Then we have to face May, who becomes more of a pushover as the run goes on. The Pelipper is there just to spam Protect and Supersonic, so she didn't pose any real threat. And thanks to Tentacool and Castform's latest weather forecast, the Combusken is not much of an issue either. Lombre, on the other hand, I have to switch through my entire team for, and eventually take it out thanks to hail damage. I made my way up to Fortree, when I caught the guaranteed Kecleon and an Absol who's gonna come into play in a little bit. Then I have to face Venona. Once again, the first Pokemon is something I can sit up on. I lead with Kecleon and try to lower Swablu's defense and accuracy using Flash and Screech. Then I just completely bully it with Magnemite. Venona went into her ace, Altaria, to avenge Swablu, so I sacrificed the Zigzagoon that, let's face it, none of you even remembered that I had. And I also traded Kecleon's life for an accuracy drop from Flash. I had to risk an Earthquake on Magnemite in an exchange for Thunderwave, but thankfully it went well and Altaria actually took herself out with a Solve Hit. Neither Skarmory or Pelipper had anything dangerous to Magnemite, so the only real threat at this point was Tropius, which I paralyzed and then carefully PP stalled, switching between Magnemite and Zubat. Tentacool then Mercy killed the Pelipper, and that got us past Venona. I made my way to Lilycove, picking up a Shuppet on my way. Then I had to fight a double battle in an exchange for a Safari Zone encounter. The twins have just a Slacking and a Spinda, which cost me my Machop, but let's be honest, I couldn't care less about it at this point. I just peacefully stalled the rest of the battle, and afterwards I could pick up my guaranteed Shuckle. And then it was time for Mount Pyre, where I picked up a Vulpix and lost a Sentry to one of the double battles. Next stop, Magma Hideout, where I got a Torkoal. The grunts were really just child's play, and not even Tabitha stood a chance, with her Numel dying to rain-boosted surf from Azumarill, my Rihanna after many roars getting swept by Powder Snow, her Zubat getting set on fire by Flame Body and then put out by a rock throw from Slugma, and her Camerupt just getting obliterated by Azumarill. But now it's time for another encounter with Maxie, a fight I was actually pretty nervous about since his Crobat could mess my team up pretty badly, and his Camerupt would just finish the job. But he opens with my Diana, which my Azumarill 1v1'd with the help of some HUD items. Then I immediately almost lost her because I clicked Rollout into the oncoming Crobat like an idiot. Luckily, I just don't get punished, and the Crobat flinched Azumarill, so I was able to heal before clicking Rollout again. That took down Crobat and almost Camerupt right when it came out, but it managed to hold on literally 1 HP and retaliated with an Earthquake, which my Azumarill took like a champ and went for one more rollout, winning me this tough fight with no casualties. But since my luck can't last forever, on my way back I got Slugma trapped and eventually killed by a wild Torkoal. Anyway, in Aqua Hideout I had no trouble destroying the grunts with my low-level Pokemon, but then Matt decided to be an asshole and killed my Vulpix that I switched in just to absorb some XP with a wing attack from Golbat. I grabbed one of Archie's balls and got out of there. I got a Veilmer on Route 129 and also realized that I can finally get a few evolutions. First of all, Gyarados. Yeah, you heard that right. Gyarados barely fits the level cap of the 7th gym. I also evolved Oddish into Gloom and then Gloom into Vileplume with my Leaf Stone. Now I can finally pay a visit to the Mouse Deep gym. You can actually skip or make single battles out of every single trainer in the gym if you're cautious enough. But now it's the time for the battle that scared me the most since the beginning of this challenge. Tate and Liza. But they only have 4 Pokemon and none of them is all that scary, right? Well, even though that's not technically wrong, Claydol can pose a huge threat to my team with Stab Earthquakes and Omniboost from Ancient Power. Not to mention, all of their Pokemon are 20 levels above mine. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this strategy though. It involves one of the Pokemon that I bet you already forgot that I had. No, not that one. No, that's not the one either. I'm talking about Absol and Nuzleaf, but I'm sure you forgot that Nuzleaf is even a Pokemon, since the Dark typing makes them immune to Psychic type moves, meaning that Lunatone and Xatu are literally useless against them, and I have a great pivot. I open with Gyarados for Intimidate and Nuzleaf. Gyarados baits Psychic, so I switch into Absol, then back into Gyarados and Earthquake as I slowly flash Claydol's accuracy away. Then, I switch back into Absol, but Claydol decides to go for EQ twice in a row for some reason, so I have to heal. Thanks to Nuzleaf, EQ slowly but surely starts to miss my Pokemon and I can finally start attacking. Tate and Liza then switch the Claydol out for Solrock, kind of ruining my plans. So I switch Absol out, thinking that Solrock just goes Flamethrower to kill the Nuzleaf. But I guess he saw a kill on Absol as well, so Gyarados comes out and immediately gets burned. You gotta love the RNG, man. Then Absol blocks the incoming Psychic as Solrock misses Solar Beam. I bring out the Sacrificial Ghost, Shuppet, for a free switch into Nuzleaf, and Absol crits the Solrock. Not that it mattered, since they just heal him back up. And then they heal him again. Luckily, 3rd time is the charm, and after like 20 minutes of switching and praying for Flamethrower misses now and then, I finally knock out the Solrock. Now, the only real threat is Claydol, which they immediately heal. But at this point, I'm feeling confident that I can beat them, even though I have to take Absol to the dentist so he can bite again, and use a Lumberry on Gyarados to put out the fire. As I start using Nature Power, I also notice that Xatu is struggling, so I just heal Gyara as Xatu takes himself out. Claydol just spams Light Screen at this point, so I just play the waiting game and chip down both of the useless Pokemon on the field. Taking down Claydol, and Lunatone follows soon after, earning me the 7th and the scariest gym badge with just one insignificant loss. I just swept the floor with the Magma Grunts from Moss Deep Space Center, but at the end of the hallway, another Maxie fight awaited me. And as if my PTSD wasn't enough, this one is a double battle between Maxie alongside Tabitha and you having to carry Steven Stone. And you can only bring 3 Pokemon, so I went with Shuckle, Castform, and Dustox, because all 3 of them are decently bulky and all 3 of them are completely expendable. Thankfully, Shuckle's defenses put me in a spectator mode. I watched Steven defeat them both as I healed and sometimes pretended to do something with Wrap. However, I did secure the last kill on the field when the Mightyena used to take down on my Dustox and in return got swept by a recoil. When I beat Archie at the bottom of Seafloor Cavern, my Golbat evolves into Crobat and I can finally get to the third arc of the Hoenn story. After some minor plot development, like, I don't know, waking up an ancient dragon to deal with a world-ending argument between an orca and a fucking dinosaur, I can finally get to the last gym. The entire gym was a letdown. You don't find any trainers if you're not stupid enough, so I guess I just got lucky. You gotta bear with me. The whole battle was played on speed up, which made it harder to edit, so I just retrieved what I could. But about the battle. All of Juan's Pokemon fell either to Vileplume, Breloom, or Magnemite. Kingdra gave me kind of a hard time by freezing Azu over and over again, but nothing a Leech Seed strat couldn't fix. I did however lose my Magnemite when I accidentally switched it instead of Gyarados into Crowdnough's Crabhammer. But the final badge was mine, regardless of the sacrifices. At this point, I get my final couple of encounters, including Sableye in the Cave of Origin, Volt Absorb Chinchou from diving, and after my arrival in Evergrande City, Hariyama from Victoria Route, which I used my weird purple ball on. Then, I have one last encounter with the weird neighbors kid, and I have to immediately sacrifice my Hariyama to heal Azu after Magneton gets an early wake up. My Sableye then lives on 1 HP after getting hit by a Future Sight from Gardevoir. But unlike you with your crush, he manages to take her out. Now, it's just the non-threatening Pokemon left. Crobat disposes of both of them, his Delcatty and his Roselia, winning me the last, somehow challenging fight before the Elite Four. After a few hours of planning everything I need, this is the final 6 that's going to hell and back with me. Lantern with Volt Absorb, because I need a counter for Glacia's Celios, and the champion in Emerald uses exclusively water types. Sableye for 2 immunities, PP Stalls, Priority in Fake Out, and Sunny Day as a setup for Vileplume. Crobat for a fast sweeper. Azumarill so I have a tank for both special and physical moves. Vileplume, the shiny holy grail with status moves. And last but not least, Torkoal. He's here basically just to blow up on Drake's Salamence, but he deserves the attention too. As I mentioned, I'm using the level cap of the champion, which is level 58, so that's 29 for me. And since the level cap according to my rules set doesn't take effect after I enter the Elite Four, I decided to go as close to the level cap as possible. But now, without further ado, it's time for the Elite Four. Sydney starts with Mightyena, so I lead with Vileplume to dodge the Intimidate on Crobat. I started with Sleep Powder, but it goes for Sand Attack, making me miss my move. So I try again, and this time it actually connects. I switch into Crobat and use Mightyena's Nap Time to shoot up with some performance enhancement drugs, and then confuse Mightyena as it wakes up. She gives me one self hit and then immediately snaps out. But at that time, Crobat is already soaring in the skies, and as he comes down, Mightyena's already below half. After a few more Confuse Rays and healing for my Crobat, I finally defeat the bulkiest out of Sydney's Pokemon, which means this fight is about to pick up some speed. Thanks to Emerald AI, I know that the next Pokemon is gonna be Shiftry, because he has a Psychic type move which is super effective against Crobat, but Shiftry's typing is weak to it and yada yada yada. One wing attack almost knocks out Shiftry, but he decides to just go for Double Team, so another wing attack takes him out. Next up is Absol, who's just known for spamming Swords Dance, so I fly for a 2-hit KO. Crobat also OHKOs Cacturn, and the last Pokemon on Sydney's team is a Crowdnout, and my Crobat just decides to avenge our fallen Magnemite with a critical hit KO. And that's Sydney. 1 down, 4 more to go. Now I get sort of a break, since the only problem on Phoebe's team is the bigger Dusclops. Or so I thought. She starts with the weaker one, and I once again lead Vileplume. Dusclops wants to protect twice in a row, enabling me to sleep him easily. I again go into Crobat to get some chip damage before he wakes up. Then I use a Confuse Ray, but it snaps out turn 2 and deals a chunk of damage with Shadow Punch. I make a very dumb decision and go for another Confuse Ray. And let me tell you, I actually thought that the run is over when I saw Dusclops not hitting himself. My Crobat lives on 7 HP like a Chad, allowing me to heal him as Dusclops snaps out and plays an Uno Reverse card on me. So I switch into Vileplume, who also gets hit hard by Shadow Punch. After a few wake-ups and a lot of healing on my side, I just go for Poison Powder to get passive chip damage. Phoebe then uses one of her full restores, and I go into Lantern, who immediately gets cursed, making Dusclops lose half of his newly healed HP and get him confused by Lantern's Confuse Ray. I switch into Crobat as it again snaps out turn 2. But then my Crobat actually confuses it enough for Dusclops to get 2 self-hits as my Sableye uses Feint Attack, taking down the one-eyed ghost and finally ending this nightmare. Crobat gets rid of Banette with some RNG payback in form of Bite Flinches. Then the second, stronger Banette comes out, so I switch Sableye into her Psychic and heal my Lantern off of her Thunderbolt. I just barely live a Shadow Ball and paralyze the Banette in return. Then I just heal while waiting for the Banette to get paralyzed. I want to add some more salt to the wound, so I click Confuse Ray as well and eventually knock it out with Surf. As the formal biggest threat comes out, I already know what to do, confusing and paralyzing it immediately. This time, I actually get self hits, unlike some other Dusclopses. I decide that 1 in 16 chance to lose Lantern to a crit EQ is not worth it, and go into Crobat for free. Then I try to predict Rock Slide, but Dusclops goes for Ice Beam instead, freezing my Vileplume. I go into Lantern and decide to gamble on Phoebe healing, and click Thunder Wave in advance, which actually works. I just won't let this ghost catch a break. After that, Phoebe just gives up, and the combination of Surf and a decent dose of self hits wear out the Dusclops. I just stay in as Sableye comes out and eventually knock him out with a crit Surf. Right when I start to get confident, it hits me. These were the easy Elite Four members. Now I have to face the actual hard part. And if I keep playing like this, I'm about to lose this run. But like I said, the level cap ends once I entered the Elite Four, so I kept all 7 rare candies that I found throughout my journey, and I used them on my team, Crobat and Vileplume in particular, after beating Phoebe. And you can call it cheating, but I'll tell you to go play it yourself and use whatever rule set you find fit for your playthrough. Personally, I just don't care about your thoughts on my decisions, so take it as you will. Well, that was kind of a detour. Now it's Glacia time. I would really like to elaborate about how tough this battle was, but the truth is, this was the easiest of them so far. My strategies worked, at least most of them, and those that didn't, I saved quickly with a different one. But let's see how it went. I, as the tradition says, lead with Vileplume, since the first Celio tends to set up Hail. Immediately after hitting the Sleep Powder, I go into Sableye to get the latest weather forecast. Then back into Vileplume as Celio misses his second Ice Ball. I hit another Sleep Powder, and after almost killing it with Giga Drains, I see that it's in red, and I go for another prediction. And even though my prediction was correct, I missed the Sleep Powder. But it's fine, since Celio just sets up Hail again. And not only I hit the next Sleep Powder, I also hit a critical hit Giga Drain. I decide that the Sunny Day is worth it, and the RNG blesses me for it with a 4-turn sleep. So I take out the first Celio with my team fully healthy, and with the weather on my side. And I treat her next Celio the same way, this time risking way less, since I'm faster thanks to Chlorophyll. But then her ace, Walrein, comes out, right as the sun fades. And she's terrifying because of sheer cold, a one-hit KO move that has 30% hit rate and can be used only if your Pokemon are lower level than the user, which my little guys sadly all are. I switch into Lantern holding an Oran Berry so she can dodge a 2-hit KO from Ice Beam. And what if the Walrein crits or uses sheer cold? Well, I cannot really do anything about that and probably just wipe. This is the best I could have come up with, okay? Thankfully, that doesn't happen and I successfully paralyze and confuse it. Then, I just go for Thunderbolts as Walrein stays paralyzed or hits itself for 3 straight turns. I told you, this fight was blessed by Arceus himself. Then, it's just her 2 Glalie. Lantern takes care of the first one with Surfs, and when the second, the higher level one comes out, yeah, that's the one that can go boom. But he just likes to use Hail and Ice Beam, so my Azu Lantern combo is able to defuse this bomb in time as well. And you know how I said that the Glacia fight went exactly by the book? Well, Drake was the exact opposite. I never thought I'd say this, but I underestimated Shelgon. Yeah, you heard that right. The weakest, slowest, and dumbest link on Drake's team. I lead with Lantern for the classic Thunder Wave Confuse Ray combo. And after leaving Shelgon with a sliver from Surf, I go for another Confuse Ray hoping for a full para, so I can heal my Lantern. But Shelgon just gives up. Drake sends his Flygon out next, and I went with the safest yet most boring strategy of stalling its Earthquakes and confusing it in the process with Crobat, who had to take a critical hit Flamethrower like a champ at one point. In the end, he outlasted Flygon, and that's more than a third of Drake's team defeated by their own self hits. His ace, the mighty Salamence, came out next, but thanks to some EV training and willpower, I guess, Crobat outspeeded him and confused him. Because let's face it, no other move from Crobat could do any real damage, and this way I have at least a slight chance of not losing a Pokemon on a switch-in. I actually got 2 self hits, which is more than I could have asked for, but sadly the time of no death Elite Four was over. I wanted the safest path possible for Torkoal to enter, and I had to sack another Pokemon to do so. The least valuable member is definitely Azu at this point. I brought it in for a chance of Mence hitting 2 low rolls, but he got crit on the switch-in. But now, it was time for the fireworks. I gave Torkoal a Quick Claw and a lot of special defense EVs to increase my chances of this going smoothly. But none of that was necessary since Salamence just stayed paralyzed and Torkoal could explode in peace. Too bad he got one of the lowest rolls, so I had to keep taking crit risks with Lantern. I'm waiting for the full para or assault hit. The first Thunderbolt left Mence with just the tiniest bit of HP, but he stayed paralyzed. and Lantern was able to finish off the biggest threat in the run. Altaria then proceeded to knock herself out with double-edged recoil, and I had to once again heal stall the Kingdra, but after a while I got it low enough so Sableye could miss the range with Fake Out and finish the job with a feint attack, getting me to the champion with a solid number of 4 Pokemon left. At this point, I believe I can win it all, since both of my Wallace counters are still alive, plus I have a Ghost type for Hyper Beams and my trusty Crobat. I go back to basics, open with Vileplume in hopes for a Blizzard Miss, and immediately misclick and click Giga Drain instead of Sleep Powder. But since Wailord remembered that I have his son hostage in the PC, he decided to miss 2 of them in a row, keeping my Vileplume alive. I go for Lantern, who just obliterates Wailord with a critical hit Thunderbolt. Then Gyarados comes out, and I know he's about to go Earthquake, so I just switch into Crobat and risk a Hyper Beam range for a Confuse Ray which makes Gyarados actually hit himself. That's the RNG I've been missing on Phoebe. I go into Sableye on the next Hyper Beam, and when Gyarados is in red, I remember the healing rule. I go for a Confuse Ray in advance, and after about 6 rounds of switcheroo between Sableye and Crobat to stall Gyarados' moves, Wallace also makes his prediction, hitting my Crobat with a hard serve. I go into Vileplume on a self-hit, and thanks to my mistake, let the poor plant tank an Earthquake before sending Gyarados to Sleepy Town. Wallace didn't want to spend any more of his full restores, so I went into Sableye and hoped for at least 3 turn sleep, so I could Fake Out and feint attack for the kill. But Gyarados wakes up, prompting me to switch around my party, and I end up back on Crobat. And here starts the marathon of me throwing the final battle. I decide to heal Vileplume, even though with this HP, Crobat is definitely dead to Hyper Beam. Luckily, I don't get punished for this either. Melodic comes out, and I try to throw Crobat again for no reason. But everything goes smoothly, as Melodic just solo hits. I switch into Lantern, which I should have done in the first place, since I have Confuse Ray there as well. I had to speed up the Melodic part, since it took over 30 minutes to stall out. That was a bit over a half of the original champion footage. Yeah, recovers and full restores were not kind to my Lantern, who just had to carry through this part of the run. But eventually, I win the dick measuring contest against Wallace and knock out Melodic. He sends out Ludicolo next, and I manage to sleep him before he sets up too many double teams. And here, I turn my brain off again, since I wasted turn using Fly when I could have just gone for 2 Arceus with the high crit chance. I don't even know what was going on with this Confuse Ray RNG, because I hit every single one, despite the 2 double teams. After a few Arceus, I managed to fix the mistake and not go down a Pokemon in this champion fight. But that was about to change very soon. Tentacool was out next, and it gave my Lantern even harder time than the Melodic. Constantly poisoning it, sometimes critting with Ice Beam or Hydro Pump. But that was really lucky, considering that it didn't crit with the one move that had a guaranteed crit KO on my Lantern. After about 30 full restores and a few lucky paralysis turns, I finally took out the second to last Pokemon on Wallace's team. You thought that the Tenta would give me a harder time, considering what I said earlier, didn't you? Nah, that was saved for the very end, with this evil motherfucking Whiscash. Or more so, my even dumber decisions. After all this Lantern has been through, in the last, hour? I finally decided to give her her well-earned rest and let her use one last Confuse Ray, sacrificing her to Whiscash's Earthquake.
I will remember you.
Then I put Sableye out for some chip damage and one last sunny day. And here, you can witness the biggest throw of my entire Nuzlocking career. As I switch Vileplume into the EQ instead of letting Sableye die, losing my only Whiscash counter, and in my eyes, dooming the run. I'm sure I'm screwed at this point, so I just sacrifice Sableye with one last Fake Out, about 2 turns too late though, and I know Crobat doesn't really have an ideal matchup against this slightly wounded Whiscash, so I'll let the end speak for itself. We have it! That's it. Thanks to the insane RNG in like 3 out of the 5 final battles, I managed to pull it off. But did I deserve it? I don't really think so. If my Crobat actually did die at any point of like 50 when I tried to mindlessly throw it away, I'd have to start all over again. On the other hand, I'm really glad with how hyped the finale actually ended up being, and I hope you enjoyed this wild journey as well. If you did, be sure to subscribe, I really appreciate it, and I plan on doing many more challenges like this in the future. But with that, my job here is done, and I'll see you next time.